Nobody sees us, right?
Yeah, they see us. And I want to welcome the global village to, I'm probably wrong about everything. This is Gerry Fialka, and today is August 12th, 2025. I want to thank Rob Grant, his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. Also want to thank David James for introducing me to today's guest. This is part 2 with Scott MacDonald. Where are you calling from, Scott?
I'm calling from Central New York State, just outside of Utica, New York.
It sure was fun reviewing part 1. We did that in March, and we can continue the conversation. We covered a lot, and the first question is, what's the motive of the cave artist? What's your guess or hunch was their motive?
I think their motive was mostly fun.
Oh,
I think, what are you doing in a cave long nights in the winter or whatever? Maybe we'll draw some pictures. I don't think it was, I think most people think it was religious or a big spiritual exercise. I just think drawing pictures is fun,
yeah.
So that's what I would guess.
Well,
Motivation.
that's good, Scott, because I know you talk about religion a little in the spirituality you found in studying film and literature. I mean, you're such a deep literature person that you switched it over to film, but somehow you continued this phenomenon of what words do to human beings, how we've invented language and how it shapes our behavior.
Yeah.
So I know you've written how many books now?
I think it's either 21 or 22.
That is what 22 is a key number. So 22 books, and they're pretty much all in this genre of interviews. Is that correct?
A lot of them have, I would say that, let's see, about 10 of them are interview books in one sense or another. Some of the others do have interviews in them.
Yeah.
But I mean, I got into interviewing because I felt I was ignorant. And I know that when I was a literature student writing a PhD on Hemingway, the only thing that was interesting to me was interviews with him.
Yeah.
Not that I particularly liked him or anything, but I felt I was getting information that was usable. I remember sitting in a library carrel reading articles about Hemingway short stories, and it seemed to me that anybody that read the stories over and over carefully would come up with the same set of interpretations. So
Yeah.
it just, the interviews gave me something that the analyses did not give me.
Yeah. So but all 22 books are basically nonfiction.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's very interesting because I've interviewed Lynn Sachs like 3 times, and she interviewed you, and she asked you simply, why do you interview? And you said, to help me understand what I find opaque. And I thought that was good because I did the etymology on opaque, and it's obscure or understand. So what I don't understand. And I mean, that's the same reason I interview. I mean, I've interviewed about 1,000 people in 40 years. So I don't know if you have your number. It's approximately in how many years you've been interviewing, but I mean, we're not going to get close to Larry King has 60,000, but it's not a question of quantity.
Yeah.
But yours is so varied. So I wanted to jump into that, what you told Lynn, to help me understand what I find obscure or opaque.
Yeah.
And McLuhan had a great line. He said, understanding is not having a point of view. So how do you deal with that comment? I'm not saying it's correct or incorrect. He's just sort of saying, things are in flux. And if we say, I like Facebook or I hate Facebook, you're kind of making a value judgment, and you might miss out on the understanding of how Facebook shapes our behavior.
Yeah, I sort of understand that idea. I mean, you do an interview and you don't know what your thought about the person you're interviewing or what that person is saying. You don't know how you feel about that until it's all over. You have to see what comes up, you
Yeah.
know. And yeah, so I don't interview hoping for a Marxist or a whatever point of view. I ask questions about that will, if the answer will, I hope the answer will help me understand a film or a kind of film.
Right.
You
That
know?
word understanding is so important because T.S. Eliot said poetry can communicate before it's understood.
Yeah.
And I think that's an amazing philosophy in the regards to experimental film.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you understand something that's an experiment? It somehow touches you. I watched a few minutes of the film that you discussed in part one, where what did we watch? Over 10 hours of people in slow-mo taking pictures of the Mona Lisa.
Oh, right. Right.
I mean, what a powerful piece. But what does it communicate? And how does the word understanding apply? There's the film, the maker, and the audience. What does understanding mean in regards to all this?
Well, I think when I was a student and for many years when I was a teacher, I thought understanding was being able to explicate something in words. But at a certain point, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, and this was part of my thinking way before that, I realized I had to make a choice between writing about film, or I'm sorry, reading writings about film or looking at film. I couldn't do as much looking at film if I was writing about film, if I had to write about it. And I wanted to see more rather than read more.
Right.
And so I, I've come to feel when I teach, I put films next to each other because I think they reveal each other as experiences. And I don't, I'm not interested in analyzing films. I'm interested in seeing, having the experience of a film and seeing what that helps me see in the next films I watch.
Oh,
So I still write a lot. I do books, but I'm less interested in what I learned from writing than drawing people's attention to certain films that I think are interesting to see for how they change your way of seeing, something like that.
yeah, that's really articulate, because one time I told David James, I says, sometimes I like more reading about experimental film than watching it. And he goes, not me. And that was such an eye opener for me,
Yeah,
because, you go to Ann Arbor and you spend, in the old days, it was Tuesday through Saturday, 6 hours a night, just watching experimental film. No
yeah,
workshops, no dialogue, just deep dive into watching. And
yeah,
they all mushed together, but it was the experience
yeah,
of watching the film.
yeah. I
But
mean,
yeah,
I
go ahead.
I find I'm very easily satiated. I don't go to film festivals because in 2 days I don't know how I can't add another layer to what I've already taken in.
Yeah,
So um, I tend to watch things and then immediately start rewatching them. I,
yeah.
I I don't know whether you've seen this or not, but I there's this documentary by two women, Susan Lacey and Jessica Levin, whose names I had to struggle to find. They did this documentary on um, um, uh, Billy Joel.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen that yet. How was it? Yeah,
I
go ahead.
I think it's kind of amazing. And
Yeah,
I never cared about Billy Joel. He was not somebody I listened to. I
yeah,
didn't think I liked him,
yeah,
especially. I mean, once in a while I chant to myself,
yeah,
uh, you may be right, I may be crazy, but it may be a
yeah,
lunatic you're looking for. You know, every once in a while I'll think of one of his lines, but I never cared anything about him.
yeah,
And started to watch this piece, and it's very beautifully put together. I
yeah,
feel that these two women, and I was trying to track them down and find out something about them. They did tremendous amount of work to do this film.
yeah,
It's really, you feel the complexity of a life of Billy Joel, who I didn't even know I could be interested in, and I find I actually am interested in him now.
yeah,
So the film showed me a way of thinking about something I vaguely knew about for
yeah.
years, and that I've watched it over and over now over the last 3 or 4 days, and it's been useful for me. You know,
Really good.
I'm getting so old
Yeah,
that I'm afraid to move forward. You know, when is the end? And Crystal or Joel, this movie makes me feel, no, I'm not that old.
yeah,
I'm still alive. You
yeah.
know, so
You're
uh,
doing it, Scott. It's so well put. You're just making this flow so perfectly because I saw the documentary on Jeff Buckley recently on the big screen and saw Amy Berg talk with it afterwards. And so it really fleshed it out. I didn't know much about Jeff Buckley. My friends played music with him. I know his dad's music more than him, but it was a feeling, that I got from what she was trying to express about everything she could tell about this person to give you a glance. And I feel the same way with the Billy Joel. I don't like Billy Joel, but to watch the film, it was like the Eagles. I hate the Eagles, but I watched the 3 hour doc on them, and I learned a lot. I mean, I hate the Doors, and I've seen every Doors documentary. It doesn't mean I'm not willing to learn about them.
yeah,
And so it's important. And
yeah,
I think that feeling the complexities, to go back into some of the things you've said in the past, is like, you actually asked the question in part one, what is film language?
yeah,
So in order for you to see a film, being someone who writes about film, there's something that you deal with, and that's called language. And you could call it film language. See, the funny thing was that I learned about language studying James Joyce was his grandmother, or no, his aunt or some older relative scared the shit out of him by telling him that thunder was the wrath of God. And so he combated that by putting 10 thunder words in Finnegan's Wake, 10 100-letter words, and he dealt with this fear. And if you study it deeper, it's like, where did language come from? Some people say it was humans hearing thunder and imitating it, biomimicry.
yeah.
So just if you could talk a little about that idea of film language, because you asked me the question, what is film language? So any thoughts on that? Yeah.
I don't think of. I mean, I used to do a course called The Language of Film, as many people did.
Yeah.
Uh, and what that meant was, well, a close up does this, and a tracking shot does this. And if you put them together this way, it means this. Uh, I don't, what I'm feeling now more is that I don't think everything has to be subsumed in language. I think films are audiovisual experiences,
Yeah.
and they have language in them. And there are visual devices that you can say are like language, but I don't know. I find the experience of a film more complex than language can comprehend.
Yeah.
And I, the title of my new book is my most recent book is Comprehending Cinema, and I mean that in the sense that not that you understand particular films, what they mean, but that you understand that cinema is a giant, complex world that has many facets and many kinds of experiences that illuminate each other.
Yeah.
So there's avant-garde. I mean, I remember when I was first teaching, very early in my teaching, there was a student that came out of Binghamton, which had a famous and influential cinema department that focused on mostly on avant-garde stuff, but not entirely. Um, Nick Ray came to teach there, and so on. And this guy was very upset. I showed him my syllabus, and he was upset that I was not just teaching what he called avant-garde film, but also Chaplin and Keaton and Griffith. And I thought, are you out of your mind? These avant-garde films only have meaning if you know Griffith and Keaton and Chaplin.
Yeah.
It's like they are in dialogue. They are in, I don't know what the word is, right? They are enmeshed with other kinds of audio experiences. I guess that's what
you can't deny the past. It's only 130-year-old medium. So, the first 20 or 30 years was all experimental. That was experimenting with the new medium. Then it found out that, hey, you know what? We're going to just film. This is what Peter Greenway taught me, basically saying, we're just going to film plays. And he said, Marty Scorsese isn't doing anything different that D.W. Griffith did. They just film plays. Now, we know there's some difference, but we covered that, with Greenway saying, cinema is much too rich a medium to be left to storytellers. But what you were touching on, I thought, was an entrance into this question I ask: what's the difference between art and science? Is there a difference?
Well, Frampton would say not at all. They are two parts of the same general idea of trying to understand experience. Tom, remember saying to Tom Gunning not long ago that I don't like the term avant-garde.
Yeah.
Because you're right. At the very beginning of cinema, everything was an experiment. What will work? When the Lumieres had their cinematograph, what will work as an individual shot? What can we? So that kind of experimentation early on develops into narrative as film's primary commercial goal. And then you have these people in the 20s that are doing something they're calling avant-garde, as though it's something that's ahead of commercial film. No, it's not ahead. It needs commercial film to react against. That's where my term critical cinema came from.
Yeah, I like that.
Critique, and I mean, I still feel that way. I mean, I think I like commercial films. I don't go to the movie theater so much anymore, like most aging folks.
Yeah.
But I don't. But in my most recent book, I talked with Dean Fleischer-Camp about Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, which is an animation that was nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah.
So.
No, that was good because you guys are my heroes, David James and you and P. Adam Sidney. All right, rest in peace. He just passed away. And David said he used commodity cinema, and you use critical cinema. Here's a couple quotes about art and science, and I'm just curious if it spurs any thoughts from you. Jean Cocteau: art is science made clear.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. I gotta let that one mold.
Here's Chomsky. I love it. Give me another. You're great, Scott. Here's Chomsky: we learn more about ourselves from literature than from science.
It depends what you mean by learn about ourselves.
Yeah.
Science can tell me that the pain I have in my abdomen is my appendix. Literature can only name it. It can't give you that information. And I mean, that's just one of those statements you make to create debate. To
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
it's provocation rather than insight.
Very good. I like that because that follows up. This is McLuhan in 1969 talking about the interior landscape. What's going on inside the dialogue inside, or the mind, and what's going outside. That was the name of the book, Interior Landscape. It says, for James Joyce have solved numerous problems which science has not formulated as problems.
Well, again, I mean, interesting statements as provocation.
Yeah.
It's like a parlor game. It's fun.
Yeah.
Maybe it can spur an interesting conversation, but it's like when I try to read. I was a philosophy minor in college.
Yeah.
And when I try to read philosophy, I'm in an argument. I remember what's his name, who everybody loves. I can't even remember the line. I mean, I listen to philosophic statements and I think those are really interesting statements. I'm not sure what it has to do with
Yeah.
where I am and what I'm feeling
Yeah.
and what, you know what I mean?
No, that's good. Well, I want to move on because it's all good, because Tony Conrad kind of said the same thing. He said artists break rules that haven't even been made yet. So it's sort of like, I think, did you know Tony
Conrad? Yeah.
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 So I think that's an interesting statement, because he was, to me, one of those key artists that was willing to take risk and not worry about it.
Yeah.
So what do you think of that? Because, it's almost Duchampian who said there's no solutions because there's no problems. So, I mean, to me, that's the ultimate. Why even think it's a problem? And you're talking about experience versus understanding, which I really love that dichotomy and how they flow into each other. But this idea of Tony saying that, we us artists are breaking rules that haven't been made yet.
Well, when I years ago I interviewed Tony. I mean, he was a semi neighbor. He lived in Buffalo, so that's like 2 hours down the road for us. But I remember him saying that he moved from Harvard to New York because he wanted to change his mind. Not change his mind, but change his mind. He wanted to learn to think in a different way. And I mean, I want to go back to your science art sort of thing.
Please.
What Frampton taught me, and I don't remember a specific statement that he said that this is true, but when I look at Hamilton's campus, literally the science building and the arts building are as far away from each other as it's possible to be on the campus. That's true also at Harvard. It's true at Colgate. It's true at almost every campus I've ever seen. So science and the arts are seen as two different ways of coming to understand the world. But they're sort of like two halves of the brain. It's like you need both to really understand the world. So, anyway.
I know, I like what you just said, because it leads to this French archaeologist, Paul Vinet, said, science finds no truths. It discovers unknown facts that can be interpreted 1,000 ways.
Yeah, right. What do we do with those facts?
Yeah.
And I assume that's what he means by interpretation.
Yeah.
Science finds that there's DNA. Okay, what do we do with the fact that we now know that everybody has a different DNA?
Yeah.
There are infinite number of things can come out of that. So, but I find science, I don't know if do you know Aaron Espily? Do you know who that is?
Tell me about him.
Aaron Espily she runs what's it called? The science technology. environment. She runs a workshop at University of Colorado Boulder,
Yeah.
where scientists work with artists. They do
Yeah.
projects with artists. She's the spouse partner of David Gatton, who you may know.
Oh, I've interviewed David. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
Well, she's his better half.
Yeah.
She's also a filmmaker who makes really beautiful and interesting films. The most recent of which is all about microscopic forms of life,
Yeah.
and what you can learn from seeing them magnified on the screen.
Yeah.
Stunning films.
Yes.
She did a film called the what's it called? The lanthanide series, about the lanthanide elements on the periodic table. So she's a scientist. She was trained as a scientist, but she loves so-called experimental film. She loves cinema, and makes beautiful. I don't know what you would call them. They are science/art films.
Yeah.
Things are brought together. You couldn't see them if you didn't have the science to be able to see them, for one thing. But the most recent piece is called Ways. Let me get the title right. What did Wallace Stevens call? This is my age.
But we can look it up. That's fine, Scott.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's great that Aaron make these films. You know, for going to Ann Arbor for 30 years, I realize half the films are nature films.
Yeah, right. That's right.
You know, and so it's just like put in a different world. It's an environmental film festival. No, we put in the experimental world. But let's deviate, because you use that word from art and science for a second. It's not that bad. You said beauty is a risk in film in one of your interviews. And I'm curious because you brought up this word beauty in Aaron's films. How do you suss out that statement, beauty is a risk in film?
Well, if it's too, I must have meant, I'm surprised I said that, sort of. But if film is too beautiful to look at, that may be all it can do. I had my eyes, I'm having eye surgery next month, and they gave me drops in my eyes yesterday. And as those drops were wearing off, I was seeing the world as though I was on an LSD trip.
Wow.
The world was glowing in a way that I could not believe my eyes. And I knew it was because of this, my pupils were dilated or whatever it is. Driving home from the laboratory where they checked me, I could barely see the road because I'm still reacting to this bright sun. But then 3 hours later, as it's wearing off, it's like I'm looking at the world as though I was on a really great LSD trip. Not
Wow.
that I had such a thing, but it sounds like what people say when they had one. At any rate, I think if things are too beautiful, maybe that's all they are. They're pretty.
Amazing, because that's exactly what. And I take these out of context, but they're just prompts for us to discuss. And that's Louis Buñuel said, if you come out of a film and go, wasn't the cinematography great? The filmmaker failed.
Yeah.
And we know what he means, and it's out of context. But is that similar to your saying too beautiful?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a film is powerful for me if I immediately want to look at it again.
Wow.
And not just for, maybe there are two, it's silly to reduce things to two things, but the two films I've liked most and have seen the most in the last 3 months, one is A Complete Unknown, the film about Bob Dylan.
Yep.
Because it's about that moment in Dylan's life where he decided to move from folk to rock.
Yeah.
And it was the first film I'd gone to. I went to see it 3 times, and then I snuck in a 4th time.
On the big screen in the theater.
Yeah. And it was the first time I went to a movie around here where there were substantial audiences, and the substantial audiences were made up of people my age.
Right. It was all boomers. Yeah.
Geezer in town that loved Bob Dylan, for whom Bob Dylan was one of the soundtracks of our lives, were there in that room together watching this incredible moment of transition.
Yeah.
And I realized the reason I love that film so much is that I had that transition myself in a different way. I went from being a literature person to a film person.
Yeah.
Not that I don't love literature. I taught it for 20, almost 30 years. Yeah. But I've read so little recently, partly because my eyes don't like reading, that when I read Stoner and when I read Robert E. Lee and Me by one of my colleagues, I couldn't put it down. I thought, oh my God, reading a book is really a powerful experience I forgot.
Yeah.
So
you're really getting into this word experience and understanding. It's so cool, Scott, how we're focused. And I'm going to go off on these tangents, but the second film you were going to mention too. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So the Bob Dylan film is one because I read it as a mythic version of something that happened in my life.
Yeah.
That looking back from my advanced age of 82,
yeah,
I could see was the pivotal moment in my learning experience. I changed lives, I changed fields, and this film gets that mythically.
Yeah.
It's interesting to compare that with the Billy Joel film because I'm watching that over and over and over because I'm trying to figure out how they made me admire this life. I mean, it's like, for entertainment, I watch sports because I don't have to remember anything. I don't have to think about it, but I don't do film for entertainment anymore. Film is something I do either to sort of explore my feelings about the life I've led or to be challenged by something that changes, that threatens to change my opinion about something. So it's either, testing a new idea or it's confirming something that seems important to me and seeing that for somebody else, this kind of thing was also important. So it's puzzlement on one hand and rediscovery on the other hand.
Oh, that's a good dialogue. Puzzle versus rediscovery. Yeah.
Yeah. If something's too pretty, there's nothing puzzling.
Yeah.
I don't need to go back to it. I may show it to a friend. Look at this. But it's not something that I go back to. I mean, I'm going back to the Billy Joel 2-episode thing because I'm fascinated how much work these two women put into it.
Yeah.
And parenthetically fascinated with the fact that when I tried to find their names, I couldn't find their names anywhere on anything written about the film.
Amazing.
And yet it's the film that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's
the cult of personality. Yeah. I'm a funk guitarist freak. And I asked my friends, who's your 3 favorite funk guitarists? And this one guy goes, whoever played behind Joe Tex. And I says, finally, someone who didn't have to name a name. It was the sound that resonated. So, then I went home and tried to find out the guy's name and all that. But I wanted to go back to this statement is good. Beauty is a risk in film. And get a little deeper, Scott, and this is Leonard Cohen. The only way you can sell a concert is if you put yourself at risk. And if you don't do that, people know. What role does risk play in your creative process, being a teacher and a writer?
Well, in my teaching, I challenge my students every day. I'm going to show them something. I know every day I'm going to show them something that will shake them up and that some of them will hate. The first films I will show in September in my intro class are Fog Line, Larry Hotheim's Fog Line. Do you know that one?
Oh,
Single shot of fog gradually clearing. Chuck Workman's Precious Images, which is what they want to see, and one of Bill Morrison's films of decayed footage.
Oh yeah, Decasia. Oh, yeah, any Bill Morrison. Yeah.
No, much more recent than that.
Okay, I got you. I got you. Good.
But
Three.
so I know they will hate Fogline, or they
Yeah.
will think they hate Fogline. Because,
Hate it. It calms you down and makes you breathe.
right, or it makes you crazy because you feel like you should be knowing something and you're not. I know they'll have to wrestle with it. They'll love Chuck Workman's film.
And then how do they react to Bill?
Bill, they just wonder what were those blotches,
Right. Well, why they watches?
So I'm showing these things because a single shot film is where film started.
Yeah.
Chuck Workman is everything in between.
Yeah.
And Bill Morrison's about film decay.
Really
So
good.
I want them to not like the stuff so that I can say, can you understand why these films were shown the first day and in this order?
Oh, that is such a good question. So now the same question, what role does risk play in your writing of your books?
It's interesting that you should ask because I'm in the midst of trying to write in a completely different way. I no longer believe, I said this to a colleague the other day, do you think any of our students, and we have very good students, would go to the library and look up a peer-reviewed journal to read an article about a filmmaker? I don't think that would ever happen. People don't go to the library. They don't take a book. You know what I mean? They don't do that.
But they do podcasts. They do 8-minute. They do 8-minute tutorials on filmmakers that are, tutorials are good. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean they do watch video essays.
Yeah,
but I'm trying to write. I've written 2 pieces. Maybe I'll send them to you. You can tell me what you think. But one is on Frampton's nostalgia. The other is called Hapak's Utopia. And what I'm doing in Hapak's Utopia is the bigger piece and more important to me, I think. I'm trying to bring 5 very different films together to talk about the way in which an urge toward a utopian sensibility shows up in these films. But I want the essay be half text and half looking at moving image media as you go through the piece. And the moving image media will be, like 3 minutes or 4 minutes long.
Yeah.
So you read for 4 minutes. Now you look at something evolve for 4 minutes. So it's somewhere halfway between video essay and textual essay.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure it'll work. There aren't many places that there's only one journal now in academe in transition, which is a video essay journal, which is peer reviewed and video, it's like people publishing video essays about cinema.
Yeah.
So I'm going to see if they'll take it. I think it's somewhere halfway between a peer-reviewed video essay and a peer-reviewed journal essay. So I'm trying to be right in between. And I want to make the imagery in the piece get more and more provocative until the end. It's like a 21-minute moving image piece that finishes a point that's, that finishes what I'm saying. So it goes from mostly text to mostly moving image as an experience. So I don't know whether this is going to work. I don't know whether anybody's ever going to see it. But I'm tired of just writing text and getting text published because I'm not sure people read books anymore,
But Scott, you really covered the risk question well. And there's a follow-up. What does courage mean to you now? Doesn't it take courage to take risk? What's the risk? What's the motive behind the risk? And where did you get that courage to do that? What does courage mean to you now?
It's funny. And this was sort of confirmed by the Billy Joel film in a way. This is a long way around to answer your question, but I was terrified of karaoke my whole life. I'm not a shy person. I love dancing, and I have no shyness about dancing. But the idea of doing karaoke in front of people was terrifying for me until that week 2 years ago when I did the video trailer for my book.
Yeah.
Because in the second week of that 2 week experience, there's karaoke on Tuesday night, which is intelligently placed because you're going to finish your project in the next 3 days, and they set it up as a kind of release. Well, so I go down and I think, I'm not doing karaoke. And I see other people that aren't going to do it. And then people start to do it. And Jason Mattel, who's the senior professor in that group, he does it. And now I'm thinking, I can't wimp out here. I can't let this guy, this
Yeah.
professor do it, and I don't do it. So I realized that whole summer I'd been practicing a Cars song, singing in the car, and now I knew why I had done it. So I go to Jason. I said, "Would you do?" I don't remember what the song was with me, and he did it with me.
Yeah.
And I was it was really fun. I did it. Not everybody was doing it. Some people were still shy. And I look over, and one of my colleagues from Hamilton, who was also there, I can see that she's hiding under the stairs because she's terrified of doing karaoke. So I recognize this immediately, and I go over and I say, "You're going to do like a Rolling Stone with me on karaoke."
Oh, nice.
And there's also this British woman who hadn't done it. And so the three of us do like a Rolling Stone. And I get the mic, and all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm a goner. I loved it. I just exploded into the microphone. I don't know whether I was any good, but it the thing I was most terrified about, I did and had really fun with it. You know.
Yeah.
So I don't really have. I don't do things out of fear anymore. I do things out of, I mean, when you're a young graduate student, especially in this economic academic moment, you're terrified that you'll not get a job. And so everything you do is done out of fear. What if this doesn't get accepted?
Yeah.
What if I don't get tenure? I'm too old for that. I
Yeah.
had tenure 50 years ago. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's nothing I have to fear.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is trying to establish a different kind of critical writing. And if people don't like it, that's fine. But I'm having fun, and I realize people have fun. I have a niece who knows she's terrible at karaoke, and she loves to do it.
Oh, that is beautiful. So maybe it's in the blood for you guys to have that courage.
I don't
But
know.
but that was beautiful. You really sussed it out. I'm for tangents, anecdotes, stories. That's what this is all about, to get a little deeper, Scott, and I appreciate it. But I wanted to stay on art and science for a couple more quotes because it might indeed prompt a couple more of your helpful insights. This is McLuhan. When in UT, you know that this history of experimental film is important. And thank God for you, Tom Gunning, and P. Adam Sidney, and all these great David James, all these people preserving this history, even if it's in a book or documentaries about experimental film. But this is McLuhan, who, by the way, most people don't know, he made an experimental film with Jane Jacobs, and it's on YouTube. And it's an activist film. It's anti building the highway through Toronto. And it's funny because Jane Jacobs said it was too experimental. I didn't know what he was doing, and nobody thinks of that about McLuhan. Here's what he's.
What's the title? What's the title?
It is called A Burning Wood, and what a great title, because it's spelled Would. It's from Finnegan's Wake. A Burning Wood.
Okay.
Great pun. So here's Marshall. When we push our paradigms back, we get history. When we push them forward, we get science. So it's sort of this examination of what is a paradigm, what is history, and then what is science. So when we push our paradigms back, we get history. When we push them forward, we get science.
I assume by science he means science and technology.
Yeah. Human inventions, tangible or non-tangible.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, when I teach film history, I'm looking at the history of cinema, but as a person looking forward now, my struggle is always trying to adapt to these new technologies that
Yeah.
are constantly being thrown my way. So the future is, how do I do this next? How do I fill out this form with this new technology?
Yeah.
Whereas history is easy for me, but
Yeah.
new technologies are a pain in the ass, So
Hey, we got over it. We got on this Zoom, dude. We did it.
we went right through it. We went right
We
through
did it. And here's Albert Einstein. Talk about brainiacs. The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and science.
I mean, I like that. I like that. And I mean, it's certainly true of, I've mostly been drawn to films that are a mystery to me, but a mystery that I enjoy.
Yeah.
So, Frampton was the first interview. It's not the first one I started or the first one I published, but it was the first, I think it was the first one, might be the first one I published. Partly because I didn't have any idea what he was doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked Zorn's Lemma. I mean, but him, what the hell? What kind of a person makes these films?
Yeah.
I knew enough to take a 6-pack of beer when I went to interview him, but at any rate.
And Gloria, has the greatest footage of Finnegan's Wake's iconic version. I mean, that is an amazing film.
Yeah, I teach it every semester. Yeah.
You're a smart man for teaching that. So here we go back to Louis Buñuel. I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it. Now, Scott, 99% of people said to me when I say that, oh, that's great. And one guy finally said, that's bullshit. Because if I'm going to seek something, it's because I want to find it. So I morphed it into the question, and you can reference the Buñuel quote all you want. I morphed it into the question. If the journey is more important than the destination, why do we have to name or seek a destination?
Well, because you don't make the journey if you don't have a destination.
Well, what about the people who wandered psychogeography and flaneurs like Hemingway and Joyce and, Joyce finding epiphanies in everydayness?
I mean, I don't know I'm not an expert on Joyce. I am an expert on Hemingway. And Hemingway's goal was to change the language, was to make
really, wow.
Everything he did was going to be something he dealt with from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock the next morning, to try to come to terms with language itself. And I mean, I didn't like him when I chose to write dissertation on it, but I also understood that the writer I liked, F. Scott Fitzgerald, was a pleasure for youth. And, you get to be 40, and Fitzgerald wrote beautiful books, but doesn't really have all that much to teach you. Whereas I think Hemingway is a discipline, like Faulkner is a discipline.
Right.
Willa Cather is a discipline. Willa Cather, God, she was marketed with the most namby-pamby looking books ever. But she's a real challenge. She challenges. Hemingway, Faulkner, and Cather are the writers that, for me, are challenges, and they wanted to be challenges. So I think you do have a goal. You can wander all you like. The Jews wandered for a long time, but they were trying to find the promised land. So
I like that, because Brakhage was a Gertrude Stein wannabe, and I love it because he would go, I don't want to explain the film. Then he would talk about it for 2 hours. But I mean, Gertrude Stein was in a way Joycean, that they were language about language. But I like what you taught me. His goal was to change the language. And I'm curious to go into this idea of truth for a few minutes. The next one is Eye of Stone. A fact is not a truth until you love it. Any thoughts on that?
These are all people who have.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I misquote. I've been sorry. That is no. I.F. Stone said, "The truth as I see it." You know, the great political journalist. I missed that up. Shelby Foote, the historian, said, "A fact is not a truth until you love it." I know it's quirky little thing, but because it is this idea of seeing is believing, switch to believing is seeing.
I don't know. To me, that's what turned me sort of away from philosophy. It's clever.
Yeah.
It's a clever statement.
Okay.
It's a statement that you immediately have to try to figure out, what does that mean?
Yeah.
It's a word game.
It's a word game, but see, my idea is to get people to spur another thought. So that's all right, because here's a couple more, and we're out of the truth thing.
Well, okay, but let me make a comparison.
Okay.
That 11-hour film in the Mona Lisa room at the thing,
yeah,
doesn't tell me anything, but it shows me how people move in relation to one another in a certain kind of context.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can say about it that would, condense it into a sentence. It's an experience of people watching,
Exactly. Yeah. But this is Eartha Kitt. Truth is a theory that is constantly being disproved. Only lies, it seems, go on forever. So I'll ask you the Marcel Proust question. They ask in every Vanity Fair, the last page. On what occasion do you lie?
On what occasion do I lie? I either don't say something or I don't. Yeah, I don't have things to lie about. I don't think I lie.
Well, this is like Picasso saying, art is a lie that tells the truth. So it's fun. It's a word game again. And this one I found yesterday. I couldn't believe it.
That one is better.
Yeah.
That is better.
Yeah.
Picasso film distorts in order to show you something that you would never see if it weren't distorted that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree.
That's sort of like back to Louis Buñuel saying, "I'm for anyone who seeks the truth." So it's not bad to seek the truth, but this is the one I found yesterday, Pierre Bonnard, a French painter. There is a formula which fits painting perfectly. Lots of little lies for the sake of one big truth. So that one, I'm curious because film seems like that. It's probably these little lies, whatever you want to call them, fictions.
Yeah. Well, it's a whole series of two-dimensional graphic snippets.
Yeah.
That you put together to have an experience that maybe reveals something to you.
Yeah.
I'll go with that.
But you said something about your books that really matches this, because I wanted to dabble in documentaries for a second. Here's the three biggies. Frederick Wiseman, he calls his films reality fiction. Alan King, actuality dramas. And Ricky Leacock, historical fantasies.
Yeah. I mean, that all makes sense,
Yeah.
I mean, my only carp with Wiseman is always that for Wiseman, editing is filmmaking.
Yeah.
But I'm always amazed that he downplays the importance of filming and of his cinematographer. You know what I mean? He takes sound while the cameraman makes these images.
Yeah.
And it's as though that doesn't count in the same way. Yeah. So I always think that's a little weird about him.
Yeah, because I thought it was cool when you said in one of your interviews that your books are nonfiction novels.
Yeah. That's what I try to make them.
Yeah.
I want them to be readable. Like, the thing that fascinated me about Hemingway and also about Faulkner and Stein and Caldwell, all the writers I cared about, was dialogue as action.
Yeah, good.
So that fed into, I mean, I do interview books because I hope they're readable in a way that, you know, other kinds of text wouldn't be readable. So,
Yeah. And you're distinguishing between, just a couple more doc questions, direct cinema, Maisels, Leacock, Wiseman, Fly on the Wall, cinema verite, Vertov, Roach, Oppenheimer, Fly in the Soup. Do you know that distinguishing? I know there's a lot of gray area there, but I will ask the documentarians I interview, are you more Fly on the Wall or Fly in the Soup? Any thoughts on those distinguishing?
sure, I like both. They define each other. That's the fun of cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's critical cinema. And then what about Herzog's breaking down the truths? Ecstatic truth, physical truth, emotional truth, and intellectual truth. Ecstatic is what he thinks he does, an epiphany like a monk.
Yeah.
Physical truth, Michael Moore, you get a belly laugh. Emotional truth, Ken Burns, you cry with your parents watching it. Intellectual truth is like Chris Marker, Agnes Varda. Any thoughts on that distinguishing manifesto he wrote?
Well, I mean, all of those are things I go to cinema for.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think one is better than the other.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like Agnes Varda. I like all those filmmakers. But I don't, I do like the Fly on the Wall and the Fly in the Soup. I mean, I think that just tells you that when you're Fly in the Soup, that you're inside the event taking place and you are part of it.
Yeah.
You admit you're part of it, and Fly on the Wall is you pretend that you're not part of it. You pretend you're just observing. So I get that distinction in their metaphors.
Yeah. It's like Ed Carpenter, who was a big associate of McLuhan's. He was one of the first to give the subject on anthropology docs the camera and let them film, and then show the film that they showed to them and film them watching it, which is what Oppenheimer did in all that exploration deep. So what's more important, Scott, conviction or compromise?
They are two parts of ongoing reality. If you have conviction, sooner or later you have to compromise.
Yeah.
If you compromise, sooner or later you better have a conviction. I mean, I just see them as things that are interrelated, that one is not better than the other.
Yeah.
They both are inevitable.
Yeah.
So
that's good, because most people say, 80% of people say conviction. And this next one you touched on. In your accomplishments, how do you rate these three elements? Luck, skill, and ambition. What played the biggest role, second and third?
My work doesn't come out of. I have certainly been lucky. I had parents who let me be me, and I luckily found that I loved literature, and I luckily found Gottheim when I needed to find him. So luck has been important. What's the other two? Skill?
Luck, skill, and ambition.
Ambition has a bit of a dirty word aspect to it, in that
it does. Yeah.
I don't do anything. I was lucky to be at a place where I didn't have to, my first job where I was going for tenure and that kind of stuff was at a place that I could do what seems to me now relatively little and get what I needed to get in order to be able to do what I felt like doing.
Yeah.
In this way, I sort of relate to Billy Joel. He didn't even graduate high school. He decided he wanted to be a musician, and that's what he decided to do.
Wow.
I don't. I'm writing all the time. When I have a moment, I don't know what to do. There's nothing on. I go write on one of the essays I'm working on. Uh, I'm lucky to have the opportunity to do that. Um, I guess I have some skill in doing it. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's not ambition. It's fun. It's
Yeah.
what
I love
it's what I
you.
do for pleasure. It's like what you're doing here is what you do for pleasure.
Yeah, well, I do it for learning too, because people like you teach me a lot. But this emphasis on the word fun has been so important to hear. But it's funny, Scott, because it's like me and you psychoanalyzing the wording on the question. So for years, I asked the question, is ambition based more on fear or joy? And 80% of people would go fear. So then I read William Friedkin, and he said, in Hollywood, skill and luck have nothing to do with it. It's all ambition. So when I break it down to those three words, some people go, well, it could be purpose or destiny or persistence or necessity. So T.S. Eliot said poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
It's funny because and this is, forgive me for mentioning this Billy Joel thing again, because I was never a Billy Joel fan, but
No worries. Yeah.
I hear him saying it in the documentary over and over that the stuff writes itself.
Yeah.
I'm at a point in my life where I know I have to, there's something, it's like, forgive the expression, it's like taking a dump.
Yeah.
I can feel that there's something that needs to come out and be written.
Yeah.
And if I don't do it, maybe it'll just be a fart, but I just trust that, and I go and sit down, and there it is.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's luck, skill. It's certainly not ambition. It's
Yeah.
not something I try to do. I don't try to write. Writing comes out of me whether
Yeah.
I like it or not. So, I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm writing a sentence.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's not
Yeah.
for anything. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So,
Well, when I asked Abigail Charles, I love her answer. I says, "What language is your inner dialogue in?" She goes, "I wish I knew." But George Manupelli, his mantra was "Ignore yourself." Jonas Mekas, "There is no self-expression." And the great jazz pianist Cecil Taylor says, "I'm just a vehicle, and this stuff just comes through me."
yeah.
Is art making more self-expression or more your vehicle for whatever technologies, cultures, and are dominant?
Well, at this point in my life, the last one that you mentioned is my experience. It just comes through me.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I don't know how many books. I mean, it's not like I don't know whether a 23rd book will make any difference, but
yeah,
and I don't even know. I mean, I'm trying to find a different format for publication just because I don't see the point of the 23rd book in the
yeah,
usual sense. But uh, I don't know how I don't remember ever feeling differently than this. When I discovered avant-garde film, it freed me.
yeah,
It gave me something to serve. And I
yeah,
remember, as much as I didn't like it at the time, when Dylan was in that religious phase, I think that's when he did the song,
yeah,
"You Got to Serve Somebody."
yeah,
Uh, and when I was a young person trying to get tenure, it took me a very long time. I didn't want to write about Hemingway. Why would Hemingway care about that? I can't do
yeah,
anything for Hemingway. How does it serve Hemingway for me to write an article about him? It doesn't.
yeah,
But for Larry Gottheim, my writing about him served something. You know
yeah,
what I mean? It made him feel better. It gave him confidence. Blah blah blah. Whatever. So I once I knew that I could serve something by doing what was fun for me, my life has been an ecstasy ever since.
beautiful. Yeah, I'm glad you bring up Larry, because he's one of those special guys who called me up years later after I interviewed him a second time. He says, "I want you to interview me a third time." And I'm like, "No problem, dude." And so can the follow-up to that last question, Scott, is, can art making be egoless?
Well, if by ego you mean a dedication to your own self-importance, yeah, I think it can be.
Yeah.
I don't, I mean, I don't, I love it when somebody tells me that something I wrote about them helped them,
Yeah.
you know?
Right.
Um, but I don't do it. I don't know. I do it to be of service, to be helpful.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you get that more from the way your parents raised you or on your own?
well, I was a good church-going boy until I went away to college and I never went to church again. Uh, so I was raised. I was raised. I don't know. I believe in the golden rule. My parents did not. My parents are very disappointed when I became an English major. I was going to be an engineer. I went to college thinking I was a math major and blah, blah, blah. And then I changed to an English major because the Romantic poets grabbed me.
Yeah.
And my parents were very disappointed, but that didn't end our relationship.
Yeah.
They thought, well, I guess some people go to graduate school and get a PhD in English. I guess it's okay. So nobody fought me about it. So I was allowed to just follow my nose. And I do remember, I tell the story all the time to myself, but also to other people. The first time I thought of literature as art was a Carl Sandburg poem called Fog.
Wow.
Fog comes on little cat feet. It sits overlooking harbor and city and then moves on. It's a haiku. Um, that's almost verbatim. And the first the first films that struck me that way were Barn Rushes and Fogline.
Yeah.
I knew that I was supposed to, I should hate these films because I hated all the other films I saw with them. That first screening at Binghamton,
Yeah.
not seeing with one's own eyes and all that, Serene Velocity, all of that stuff I hated, but I liked Barn Rushes. And it said, oh, this is something people can do. I just got lucky that people didn't fight me. I just, I just followed my nose a little bit. And I
Scott.
was, yeah.
Yeah. Can perception be reality? Or is perception reality?
Well, no, because I can missee something
Yeah.
anytime. I can misunderstand a person anytime.
Yeah.
So perception, you can sophisticate your perception. You can learn from perception,
Nice.
but um,
You've touched on this, Scott. Tell me one major element in one major element that's changed and one major element that's stayed the same in your creativeness, in being creative as you have, teaching and writing. One thing that stayed the same, one thing that's changed.
well, what stayed the same is I've always wanted to share the pleasure and the energy that the works that I love, for whatever set of reasons, gives me.
Yeah.
I want to share that, and that was true when I taught literature. It's true when I teach film. It's true when I write. What's changed is just the subject of
Yeah.
my writing and my teaching. So at one point, I thought it was going to be literature, but when it came to writing about literature, I wasn't really interested. And I wasn't interested in being one of those critics that finds new writers and helps them to success. I didn't think I could do that, but I could do it with film. And so I guess that's changed. I found something where I found something I could serve. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness.
Yeah.
Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
Um, um, I, I'm not sure I know exactly what a weakness is. Um, I guess maybe my weakness, I think my wife would say my weakness is I have a very hard time taking myself seriously. But that turned into a strength when I realized that I could get myself to interview a filmmaker like Frampton, who was brilliant and bombastic and blah blah blah, productive, but he couldn't help himself to get to an audience. Um, I don't these questions are put in terms that I'm not sure I know what weakness and strength are exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of like a good example, and I think it's you did a real long interview with a woman who has been in my Pixel Vision Film Festival, which enters its 35th year in November, if you can believe that. She,
Wow.
what's her name? She met Margie Strasser and Peggy. Peggy brought up Iggy Pop, and he's the best example I can say, or one of a good example of this. He said, "My band was so bad at imitating the Rolling Stones, we invented punk rock."
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
So there's a line, Scott, that goes, "You create what you resist." Bob Goldthwait, the comedian, morphed it into "You are what you hate." In fact, James Joyce said, "It's a curious thing how your brain is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve." And Louis Buñuel nailed it. He said, "Thank God I'm an atheist." So this idea, you create what you resist. I'm not saying you, Scott, but one creates what one resists. Any thoughts on that line?
Yeah, I mean, when you go to see when we were going to see avant-garde in the 60s, the flicker, I mean, I'm showing in one night of my intro course, they'll see the flicker, wavelength, and 1 to 60 seconds by Taka Imura.
Yeah,
And I mean, they're going to resist that stuff like crazy. I resisted. I mean, what the fuck is that?
yeah,
You know what I mean? But it's revelatory to
yeah,
experience it. So, yeah, I mean, I think what we if something doesn't catch us, doesn't interest it doesn't when we resist something, that's an active engagement.
yes,
So, like I don't get actively engaged in sports stuff because I just watch it. You know what I mean? I don't really care that much. But if something, if I'm really resisting something, I'm wondering. I work this on my students. I want them when they hate something. I want you to write a conversation with you and the filmmaker. You say this, and what does the filmmaker respond?
yeah.
So when something really for a long time, when something really made me it's terrible, I would if I kept feeling that way, I'd have to dive into it.
Really good.
Yeah.
That's the symbolist, Mallarmé's saying, paint the effect, not the painting. And I asked George Clinton what kind of music he likes. He goes, "The kind that pisses me off." And I've tried to figure out, why does this music piss me off?
Right.
Engagement is a good word, generative. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So here we got about 10 more minutes, Scott. It's really been fun. This is 5 Alan Watts questions off the top of your head in just a couple words. No worries. First one, who started it all?
Stan Rackage.
Are we going to make it?
We'll make it somewhere.
Where do we put it?
where do we put it? Wherever there's room.
4, who's cleaning it up?
I hope I don't have to.
5, is it serious?
Is it serious? Can be.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, I asked my friend who wrote comedy with Robin Williams, can satire be destructive? He says, that's the job of satire.
Yeah.
But if me or you do a cartoon in a certain country, they kill us. Some people think dying is destructive. Swift compared satire to a mirror in which people could see every face but their own. What's the function of satire?
Satire is to express your doubt about what seems to be a reality for many people.
Yeah. Beautiful. What's the function of laughter?
Well, it's a release. It's
yeah.
It's to free you.
Beautiful. Yeah, Gurdjieff said laughter is the reconciliation of yes and no. So, Scott, how do you find peace of mind?
Peace of mind. I have a lot of peace of mind. I've been lucky in my life. I've had very little stress.
Yeah, that's good.
Kind of stress that you have if something you do is going to be bad news for other people. I don't have much of that. Yeah.
If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
You will actually look better to yourself in about 5 years.
Nice. In 5 years. Good.
I was a carrot top, geeky, bucktooth carrot top.
Which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under?
Under.
Wow. If a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
Gerry, I couldn't help it.
I couldn't help it. No, the first, that's really good, because the first thing you said was Gerry. That's the name of the Gus Van Sant song, film. And they want to scent the glue in the binding. What smell?
Say that one again.
They want to scent the glue in the binding of your autobiography. What smell?
Oh, what smell? Beats me, Gerry.
That's all right. That's all right. Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Something good I never had. I've never. I've never been in a fight, and I never won a fight.
Oh, that's good. That's the Irish line. Is this a private fight or can anyone join in? Well, this has been really fun. There's a couple more and we're out of here, Scott. If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
Gerry, what? I guess I would try to swim out of it. I don't know.
Swim out of it. That's you. There you go. You know, I asked that question for years. I learned it from an alta cocker on Venice Boardwalk, and this woman once said, Well, I'd take the velocity of the bag of shit and I'd swoop my way out of the vat of vomit. I says, dude, that's the Descent in the Maelstrom by Edgar Allan Poe, where you study the patterns and it saves you from being drowned. So what's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
Oh. Well, I think many of us see a cultural shift in the direction of Nazism, but what inspires me? What's the change that inspires me? I don't know. For me, this is as happy as I am and as lovely as my life is. It's a dark time.
Yeah.
I have a lot of fear, but then I also, when I look back, I realize, well, it felt very scary in 1968 also, and it must have felt really scary in 1929. So I guess, I figure sooner or later we'll be in a better place than where this seems to be going.
Yeah.
Even Germany seems like a wonderful place compared to its history, So
Utah Phillips said, anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. Who's entitled to make the rules?
Well, I mean, you do have to make rules for yourself, but other people also make rules that your rules have to collaborate with. So,
well, it's funny because the word freedom breaks down to what etymologically what Utah Phillips said, giving oneself one's own laws. So what does freedom mean to you now?
Freedom means to me the ability. I feel like a free person. I can, everything I do are things I want to do. Other people make rules so I have to do it this way or I have to do it that way. And there's some of that, but I don't know if I'd enjoy what I'm doing as much if I didn't have those frictions within doing what I like. So I don't know. These questions are yeah.
No, that's great. You're doing fine, Scott. This is about the word archive. It's 1400s, keep safe, free from harm. 200 years later, records preserved as evidence. I'll set up a little, but the question is basically, is archiving more innate or more invented? And do you have plans for your own archive? Baudelaire said, if you try to make a statement long, deep, and rich, it will age very fast. If you try to own the day you're talking, it will last forever. I mean, isn't the point to be here now, like Ram Dass said, live in the moment?
Yeah.
In fact, Wyndham Lewis said, artists live in the present and write a detailed history of the future. So, the Egyptians saved stuff in their coffin, but do you think, and people our age, they're like, well, I got all these boxes of stuff. What am I going to do with that? I don't know if you saw the Joan Baez film, but that was great because they go, it's good film. And they go, do you have any archives? She goes, yeah, my mom stored everything in a storage space and it hasn't been open for 50 years. So the filmmakers hit pay dirt. And then they're interviewing her after the film came out and says, what are you going to do with all that stuff? And she goes, I don't care. Throw it off the side of a hill. I burn it. And her assistant goes, oh, we're negotiating with the Smithsonian right now to preserve it. So basically, do you think, Scott, this need or want to archive is more innate or more invented?
Well, I think it's both innate and inventive.
Yeah.
And invented. It's a need that you have to invent a way to fulfill. I heard early in the summer that Harvard is going to take my archive.
Oh, that's good. But did you peddle it to them or did they come to you and ask?
They came to me. I don't know whether it'll happen.
Wow.
What I mean? It hasn't happened, but
yeah,
But the other thing is, I want to suggest somebody to you because the question came up in an interview I did recently, and maybe I should send you. The other most recent book I've done is called Publication as Autobiography, and
Yeah.
I did it with Paul Cronin. I don't know if you know Paul.
Dude, I've interviewed Paul with all these questions. I was going to bring him up. He's an amazing guy.
He is, but he's now a publisher, and he published this book of mine.
Yeah.
And it's mostly a sort of retrospective. It starts with Caldwell and Gottheim and goes through my life up to fairly recently, and it ends with a long interview that I did with a video essayist called Max Toline,
Yeah.
Tohline, whose masterwork is called A Supercut of Supercuts,
Yeah.
and it's available online. And you should take a look at it. I think
I
you'd
will.
find him a really interesting person to talk to.
I would love to talk to Max, and I've been trying to get Paul to do an interview with me again. I really had a great time with him. The funny story was he was in LA and he went and talked to David Mamet for an hour, and then he came and talked to me for 3 hours. I was like, how honored am I? I got more than Mamet. But have you watched his long 16-hour film on Columbia?
I have.
Yeah,
I
have you watched
it. I think I was the first person to show it.
Nice.
And in my book, Comprehending Cinema, the longest interview in that book is with Paul about that film.
Oh, that is good, because his doc on Medium Cool is really deep into McLuhan, and I'm really interested. So we got a couple more. I really appreciate that.
Listen, when you're done, I want you to send me your snail mail.
Oh, I will. I'll send it to you in an email. So this is Stan Brakhage introducing Tarkovsky in '83 at Telluride. I personally think the three greatest tasks for film in the 20th century are: 1, to make the epic, that is, to tell the tales of the tribes of the world; 2, to keep it personal, because only in the eccentricities of our personal lives do we have any chance at the truth; and 3, to do the dream work, that is, to illuminate the borders of the unconscious. Any comments, and do you have any updates?
Well, Brakhage was a brilliant guy, and he could say brilliant things. I've never been a brilliant guy, and it's very hard for me to try to say brilliant things. So,
you've said a lot of brilliant things, but I mean, the things he touched on, where would, it's sort of like, what's the future of, I mean, Lynn asked you this, what's the future of experimental film? Is it AI, TikToks, what, any thoughts?
Well, for me, my discovery of video essay was transformative in the same way that my discovery in the 1970s of what we call avant-garde film was transformative.
Yeah.
So I think, online video making, I don't know if you know, do you know of Chloe Galibert-Lyonnais? I'll have to send you the name. But she's a great video essayist. I mean, for me, video essay is the new avant-garde.
Yeah.
And I've written a little bit for the online journal, The Edge.
Yeah.
And if you Google Scott MacDonald, The Edge, you'll find my pieces there.
Good.
And these are all things I've done on video essay. Pretty
beautiful.
Much. So,
a couple more, we're out of here, Scott. This is what's a question that remains unresolved for you?
Whether what we do, what the work that we do, the writing that I do, whether it actually makes it into the future.
Yeah.
Everything seems to be transforming so quickly that, I mean, we can read a book that was written in 250 AD, and or a poem and understand it. I don't know whether
Yeah.
anything will be remembered in 1,000 years. So remains to be seen.
Yeah. One of the great poets said, everything ends up in a book. Books are the most important. How has writing shaped your behavior?
Well, I've spent a lot of my life doing it. So it's what I do when I'm not teaching and I'm not taking care of my daily, weekly necessities. I try to be writing. I mean, it's the way I've shaped my life.
Thornton Wilder said in 1928, art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for hours. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?
I don't know, staying alive while I can. You know,
staying alive is a good line. What gives you the most optimism?
What gives me the most optimism? I don't. I'm generally an optimistic person when I can be. What gives me the most optimism? I guess history.
Oh, wow.
Because things are often worse than we can imagine, but we keep surviving.
Yeah.
Now, so.
Well, the first question I asked you in the first part was, what's the best thing for a human being? Wilhelm Reich said the best thing for a human being is another human being. And the last question I asked you, what gives you the most optimism, is what they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life. And he said, other people.
Uh-huh.
It's sure been fun spending this time with another person, especially because it was you, Scott. Thank you so much for your time and energy and all your books. I really learned a lot, and I appreciate everything you do.
Thanks, Gerry. I hope not too many of your listeners roll their eyes. But do send me your snail mail.
I will indeed. I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, but I hope this never ends and we can keep talking forever and ever. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, take care.
All right.